It is day 32, 8:38 a.m. in the Big Brother UK house. And I do gotta warn you, we will be switching back and forth between the main house and the lab a ton this episode. We see that over in the main house, they are starting off their morning with an early morning party. All of them are outside in the garden right by the stereo, just all dancing and vibing and having a good time. Even the chicken is kind of there, dancing and vibing as well. While over in the lab, it's a bit of a different story. Everyone is really weird and like bugged out. Like even if I reset all of them, they still like, if I tell them to do something, they'll go and do it, but their like autonomy is just not working. None of them are doing anything, have any will to do anything. They're all just standing around, and that happens a lot over in the lab, and I'm not too sure why. Meanwhile, we even see that Davina is in room 101, just secluding herself from everyone and playing a little bit of Tetris on the computer. I'm not too sure why the lab house guests have such a hard time like in autonomy mode right now, as we can see that the main house doesn't have that issue at all. All of them are kind of going crazy with the party stuff, more so than they even did yesterday, and I think it's just because it's finally stopped raining. We see that they're doing keg stands and drinking and dancing, and Pete is even walking around and cleaning up the place from the night before. Meanwhile, the party is definitely going on in the storage room as Emma Willis and Brian are hooking up as the laundry is drying right beside them. Hopefully it doesn't catch on fire. Meanwhile, in the lab, they're all kind of taking advantage of the pool and the spa. Now, just because the main house isn't allowed to have a pool does not mean the lab isn't allowed. We're going to try this once again with these guys, and hopefully they don't die while in the pool again. We'll see if this works, then who knows, maybe in the future it can return to the main house if this works, but I don't know, we'll see. And it's also kind of scaring me that their autonomy isn't working that much. Like, what if someone gets in the pool and they don't stop swimming? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, Mikosi and Charlie are enemies. They always nominate each other. However, they don't really argue with one another that often, which is kind of surprising. However, the two of them, since being nominated and moved over to the lab, they seem to actually be bonding and mending bridges, since it's totally possible that one or both of them will be going home on Friday. In the main house, the party rages on as Cameron has joined Emma and Brian. And then in the bedroom, of course, we have Craig and Pete hooking up with Nadia. Craig and Pete kind of hook up with everyone. I'm surprised one of them isn't in this threesome and the other one's in another. We see that Luke has fallen asleep in the hot tub. He's kind of a bit too partied out. It's a bit too early for him to be drinking and doing all of this. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, we see that Rylan and Isabelle are bonding.
Hey, Rainbow.
We see that Nikki has joined Charlie and Mikosi in the bathroom, and the three of them are kind of getting along. Nikki still seems a bit agitated with them naturally, but I think, again, with all of them facing the public vote and the potential for all of them to leave on Friday, they're all kind of putting all their grudges aside, which I really like. Too bad that they won't be able to use these newly mended friendships to their advantage once this week is over. Davina, our unlucky 13th house guest, who is actually pretty super lucky, is doing laundry, while our two newbies, Josie and Allison, are talking to Gemma in the kitchen where they are, and all kind of bonding and getting to know each other. Josie and Allison have quickly become best friends. At 11:04 a.m., the main house is still partying on, and as a special little treat, I've also added a bunch of new items. We see that Emma is breaking in the punching bag. Meanwhile, I've also added a foosball table and a sabacc table as well. Of course, Pete is partying by getting completely naked. It is slightly raining, so he has to be naked while it rains. It's just the way life goes. Meanwhile, they are failing to do the keg stand. It looks as though Brian and Isabelle were meant to, but they easily got distracted by Pete, who thankfully put some clothes on. I am so tired of seeing his little pixels. Meanwhile, it looks as though Nadia is playing a game of beer pong with Craig. And playing a round of sabacc is Emma, Pete, Luke, and Josie. Now, they are not betting their actual big bucks like Pete did that one time when he was big boss. It's just a casual game. And thankfully, Emma and Pete have played this before, so watch out, Luke, as Josie quickly quits the game. Over in the lab, all the house guests are still out by the pool. Thankfully, they're not swimming in it just now. They are just casually sitting outside of it, putting their legs in it, and just kind of having conversation and getting to know one another. It looks as though Kim is pretty angry. All the house guests seem to be in a really great mood apart from her. And Kim stomps across the yard and goes into the house, only to then go to the kitchen and start cleaning. Meanwhile, we see that Davina is using her own bathroom in room 101. She is the only one to have access to that room. Charlie, Nikki, and Mikosi do not. We see that once Kim has finished cleaning the microwave, she feels totally better. Her anger is now gone, and she can go around the house as delightfully as possible. Meanwhile, Charlie and Perez are searching through the bedroom, looking at all the decorations, and maybe trying to find some kind of secret advantage or key into the main house, because the main house is the place to be. Not only are none of these people going home this week, but they are still partying on day and night. They've almost gone through, 48 hours of just straight up partying. What a way to live. It seems as though Nadia has won her game of beer pong. I can't say that. Beer pong. That's what I always want to say. Beer pong with Craig. Craig's pretty upset about it. Thankfully, though, the rain is hiding his tears. And it seems as though the game between Emma, Luke, and Pete is still going on. However, I have no idea how sabacc works, so couldn't tell you who's winning or not, but Luke doesn't even have any cards. At 1:52 p.m., we see Charlie and Tamaz are at the dining room table getting to know one another. It's kind of sad that, these people can get really close, but at the end of the day, only one of them and Davina will be going back into the house on Friday. It sucks, but also you can download all of the Lab House guests over on the gallery at Singleton RW, so if you miss them, totally just continue on with their story over in your save file. We see that everyone is just kind of standing around. All of them want to be outside, as that's where most of the entertainment is. However, with the rain, they keep going inside to get a little bit more dry. And then we see at the dining room table, this is honestly the most awkward interaction I've ever filmed in my entire Sims career. We see that Davina and Charlie sit at the table, both in matching yellow bathing suits, looking really great. And then Nikki comes over, looking great as well in her bathing suit. This honestly looks like some kind of futuristic Love Island scene going on. Davina tries to get up, but sits back down. All three of them are sitting there, just looking at each other. No one exchanges any words. Both Charlie and Davina get up, and then just stand there, butt to Nikki. And then they eventually do walk away, leaving Nikki there. But what interaction was that? That was so bizarre. Meanwhile, Coolio is still trying to schmooze over Gina and maybe start a little showmance while he can. At 4:27 p.m., we see that almost the entire group of the lab is inside the bathroom as Kim stomps her way across the yard once again over there. And when I think she's about to explode on all of them, she actually goes up to Tomas, kisses him on the cheek, and then feels totally better once again. It's really weird, she started a huge argument with Luke on the first night, but since then hasn't really started any arguments with anyone else. She's constantly getting angry, but also just as quickly getting unangry. So she's a bit bipolar, I guess. Outside, we see that the main house guests are not trying to avoid the rain like the lab is. They're constantly running out from the garden and trying to stay indoors. Meanwhile, with all of the fun objects that are in the garden, all of the house guests are still partying on. We see that Emma, Pete, and Luke have finished up their game of sabacc. I'm not quite sure who won, but from Pete's sad expression, I'm guessing he lost. We see that Josie, Brian, and Craig were all dancing outside by the stereo, while in the bathroom, everyone waits in line to use it. Some waiting a little bit too close for comfort, as we see Isabelle and Rylan have joined Nadia in the stall, and then have the nerve to complain about the smell. Everyone is slowly gathering into the bathroom. I guess now it's the time for everyone to use it, including the main house and the lab. The lab seems to be less chaotic, that's for sure, with Luke constantly fixing things and Kim constantly cleaning things, even though their bathroom is just as busy, just as a nightmare for me and them. It's surprisingly not as bad. It's a lot cleaner, it works a lot better. I don't know, I'm having a better experience with them, but maybe it's because all these house guests are acting so strange. We see that Kim calms herself down once again by going over to the kitchen and cleaning everything. She's checking the air, and something can be like 1% dirty, and she goes over and cleans it. Like, she knows the importance of keeping the house clean when it's all white. Back over at the main house, everyone is now finally done with being soaking wet, and now they are avoiding the rain once again. However, Josie and Allison both still sneak out under the awning to do a few more keg stands before they call it an end to the party. Unfortunately, like everyone else's keg stands, it's also a fail and hurts Allison's butt. And Josie, originally, I was thinking, was going to ask Allison to play the foosball table, finally break that in. No one's played it so far. She even kind of walks Allison over and challenges her to a game, only to then go to the foosball table and wait as Nadia actually walks over to compete against her. So I don't know what that was about. Nadia wasn't even in the garden. However, we now have a Nadia versus Josie foosball match. And, Nadia won beer pong earlier, so let's see if her luck has run out or not. Instead of playing the game, Allison goes over and starts dancing with all the house guests, including even getting a hug from Emma. Who knows, maybe she is really, solidifying her relationship with them. That way, when they are off the block, they'll be safe. And we see that Nikki is doing some laps in the pool. At 9:15 p.m., we see that Allison isn't the only one making bonds with the house guest, as Luke A has managed to take Gemma into the shower and start woohooing with her. So that's a way to build relationships, for sure. Meanwhile, a lot of the main house guests make their way into bed and call it a night, so Big Brother goes ahead and turns off the lights in the bedroom for them. But outside, the game between Nadia and Josie is still going strong, with them both battling and winning nothing at the end of it, except for maybe a chance to gloat at the other or around the house. Maybe bragging rights, I don't know. We see that over in the lab, everyone else is calling it an end to the day as they all climb into their pods and go to sleep. However, there's only 7 pods. Davina has her own room, but we see that Mikosi is left out and sleeping on the couch. And with everyone having pods, the lights aren't going to go out, so it's going to be a bit of a restless night for her. We see that Charlie, instead of sleeping in the bedroom, has opted to sleep in the bathroom. And Coolio has made himself some dinner, and is going to sit down and enjoy that with Davina as we go ahead and wrap up the episode here. Join me tomorrow as we continue on with this, and we actually have another special twist for Davina. So make sure to check that out. Leave comments down below, like, share, and subscribe. Go over on my Twitter for all the latest updates, and including the vote, as again, you have to choose which of the lab house guests will come to the house and which will leave. Vote for who you want to save down below.